Hello again, Ron Collins here. Thank you very much for attending this webinar about practice management and the reasons it's such a big help to law firms. I know your time is precious and I really appreciate your spending some of that to talk with me today. I'm going to be just 30 minutes of running through some of the reasons why practice management can be so important and so helpful to you. And I do encourage questions. I'll stay as long as anybody wants at the end of the webinar to deal with your questions. All right. The first and most important question is, what is practice management software? I talk to lots of lawyers every day all around North America, and some people think they know what practice management software is. Some of those have it right. Many people just aren't entirely sure. It can be a bit of a vague term. So here's what we mean by practice management software. It's something that organizes your practice, and it puts you more in control of that practice, not just because it's so much better organized, but also because of the number of tools you have within it to control and stay on top of your law practice. It also helps you perform your legal work. It's not just a database or a collection of information. It's an assistant that helps you with your legal work. And another huge benefit of practice management software is something that makes you and your team in your law firm much more efficient. So that's the essential definition of what it is we're talking about today, why that's to help in your law practice. In other words, practice management software can turn your law office from this to this. And that's what we're all about. Doing more, billing more, and going home early. Having a better law practice and a better quality of life. All right, let me expand then on what is practice management software. Because you can break it down into some distinct areas. There's the professional side to your law practice. Most importantly, your client matter files, because everything in a law practice is organized around your client matter files, and all the information, things you do, tasks, deadlines, calendaring, everything relates to those files. So that's an essential building block of practice management software. Documents. We all have been buried in documents in our law practices, so managing and controlling your documents, indeed providing full document management as it's known. Calendaring. Legal specific calendaring is an immense part of practice management, as is task management, contact management, phone calls, email management, research, notes, and more like that on the professional side. But your practice also has a business side to it. There's time, expenses, billing, collections, and trust. And practice management handles that as well. There are more specific tools as well for practice management. Conflict of interest searching tools, report generators, dashboards, searching, practice assistants, calculators that figure out your deadlines for you, and many things like that. Now, besides all of those individual tools, one of the keys to practice management is that it's all integrated. All of those different things that you need to do in your law practice are brought together into one system, one integrated system, so that the workflow is so much more natural. You don't have to go from program to program. You can just click and be where you need to be, when you need to be, sharing common information. All right. Then that brings up the question, why practice management software? Why would you want a tool that can do all those comprehensive things for your law practice? Well, as we said before, so that you can do more, bill more, and go home early. Having a better organized practice is a good thing. Having greater efficiencies, better teamwork, being able to capture more billable time from the same work. I'm not saying you need to work harder. With practice management software, you don't need to work as hard, but you will bill more time. You can also provide better client service and thereby do better business development, bring in more work, and make your clients happier. And of course, importantly, none of us like to bill. None of us like to follow up with collections. So tools that let you do that more easily are a big help. And all of that adds up to having more time for the important things in life and sleeping better at night. Practice management software reduces malpractice risk in a wide number of ways, and that's why it's recommended by virtually every malpractice insurer in the world. All right, a question I'm often asked right at the beginning is, well, what about Outlook? I have practice management. I use Outlook to manage my practice. Why do I need something legal specific like Amicus Attorney? Well, Outlook's a great product, but it's really just an email program with a simple calendar and Rolodex. It is not practice management. So let's just take a step back and think about what we just said about what is practice management. We talked about how everything in a law firm is organized around client matter files. Well, there is no such thing in Outlook. There's no concept of a client matter file, let alone how to organize everything within your calendar or Rolodex around that. So, for example, an appointment in Outlook simply has no idea what client matter file it relates to. There's no place in Outlook you can go and see everything you have to do and everything that's going on and collect specific information about your files. And without that, you can't get out the starting gate as practice management. And again, it has zero concept of billable time. You can't do a time entry in Outlook. And you can't collect your time entries, you can't put them into a billable system, let alone anything like trust or billing collections and so on. There is no dimension of billable time. So if you think about a law practice or practice management having some essential cornerstones, client matter files, billable time, the people in the practice or context, and the calendaring and scheduling needs, those would be the absolute minimum 4 needs. Oh, and documents has to be a 5th. Outlook only has 2 of those. And what it has in those 2 calendaring contexts is mass market. The fellow who runs the milk store finds the Outlook calendar to be great. Retail operations, people at home, students at school. The Outlook calendar is basic, it's simple, it's great. But it's not great for lawyers because lawyers have extremely sophisticated scheduling needs, and you simply can't meet them in Outlook, and I'm going to show you some of that in a couple of minutes. The same thing about their context. Yes, you get a list of people, names, addresses, and phone numbers in Outlook, but you don't have business development tools. You don't have a CRM for law firms, which is what you get in Amicus Attorney. The other big problem with Outlook, and it cuts across all forms of information, is it has almost no sharing of information, no ability to collaborate and work together as a team. In Outlook, each person has their own Outlook database. Even when you use Exchange at the center of it, everybody's information is segregated. So, for example, if 3 people in your law firm know me, Ron Collins, one of you might have me in there as R. Collins, as Ron Collins, one of me perhaps has my middle initial or something like that. So Outlook will actually have all 3, or you might have all spelt my name the same way, but the 3 people in your firm will all have Ron Collins in as a separate record. So if my phone number changes, all 3 people will have to learn that and go in and change it separately. There's no common information. It means duplicate data, duplicate effort, and the high likelihood of inconsistencies, even in something as simple as a list of names and addresses. And as you get more sophisticated, it falls apart even worse. On top of that, it has simply none of the other legal tools that we talked about and that I'm about to show you. So, Outlook, simply not practice management, doesn't get out the starting gate, but there is good news to all of that, and that is that Outlook completely synchronizes with Amicus Attorney so that everything you put in your Amicus will be in your Outlook and vice versa. The calendar and the contacts, it's all there. So if you have Outlook today, it will appear in Amicus as soon as you get started, which is great. You don't have to re-enter any of that. And going forward, if you go back and want to keep using Outlook for some aspect of that, feel free, go ahead. There's no obstacle to switching from Outlook. You simply get so many more benefits, but you don't lose anything you have. All right, again, let's try and look at what Amicus Attorney does because it will help from end to end of your practice. So let's start at the beginning. For your practice to exist, you need clients, and that means business development. Amicus Attorney helps. When you get new retainers, you need to draft the retainer and you need to check your conflicts. Amicus Attorney helps. As you open those new files, you want a file intake process to make sure the right information is captured, even specialized information per client type or file type. Amicus Attorney helps. Then as the file proceeds, you need to manage that matter, know everything that's going on, everything it relates to, track tasks, delegate tasks, meet deadlines. Amicus Attorney helps. Legal calendaring in terms of bring forwards, court dates, deadlines, so many different things, statute of limitations. Again, those are all things Outlook can't do. Amicus Attorney helps. Communication management ranging from phone calls, messages, and of course email, that flood of email. Document management, knowledge management, manage your precedents, deliver better client service. It goes on to the, as we call it, the business side of your practice, trust accounting, time tracking, billing, collections. You'll get improved realization rates. In other words, the time you bill, you will be able to realize better on that time and collect more money from it. You can manage your firm, improve teamwork, and as we said, reduce risk. All right, enough talking. Let's have a look. So here I am in the Amicus Attorney Premium Edition. I'm logged in as Heather Gavel, and this is my home screen, if you like, my main office. So there's my name and today's date. And right away you can see when I say that Amicus Attorney helps, even here in the first screen you get an idea of that help. It's telling me about my next appointment. It's telling me I've got 5 messages to return, some unposted time entries, 38 recent activities without time entries, and a little tip of the day. In the time we have today, I can't possibly give you a full demonstration of the whole product, so I just want to go to a few simpler areas. You can see I can navigate up and down using this, and I went to the Files module. Here are the client matter files that you work with day to day in your practice. Now remember, we talked about practice management dealing with both the professional side of your practice and the business side of your practice. We separate that in Amicus using the words attorney and billing. Right now I'm on the attorney side, but in every screen I'm in, I can flip to the billing side just like that, and I see the same information, but now from a billing perspective. So where before I just had a list of client matter files I was going to dive into, here I get that same list, but it's organized with IDs. It's showing me how much unposted time there is, how much work in progress time there is, and expenses, what I've got in terms of accounts receivable, any monies I have in retainer and trust, and running totals at the bottom. So quick business side information, quick professional side information. And when we open a file, we get the file. Here is all the different information relating to this client matter file. It's laid out a bit like an old-fashioned paper file, and that's great because it just helps you see at a glance what you need. That's one of the keys to Amicus Attorney. You've got a busy practice, there's a lot going on. You need to be able to glance at your screen and just know the information you need. And with a familiar layout like this, you can. Here's a business card. So I've got a list of people on the file, and whichever name I select, that person's business card appears along with their role on the file. Of course, it's a bit of a magic business card. I can do a letter to them just by clicking that, or an envelope by clicking that. I can phone them by clicking that. I can send a fax to them or an email to them right from there. I don't need a bunch of boxes and labels because it's laid out so cleanly for me. I can see what's going on. And over here on your paper file, you might well have clipped together a variety of different correspondence, communications, important documents. That clip's sometimes called a brad, and you can click on it there and sort through all those different things right from here, or you can navigate right from here. So for example, we can see all of our documents on the file. So Amicus Attorney provides you with full document management, frankly for less than the cost of a separate document management program, and you can work with the documents all right from here. Open them, view them, deal with them, change them, and so on. You can also see, for example, your emails. Now here's all of my phone calls and phone messages on the widget co-share purchase matter. Or I can click in and see all of my emails, or I can see all emails. There again, that's so important. As a lawyer, if I'm working on my own on a file, I can see my emails. I might put a little folder in Outlook and, if I remember, drag all the relevant emails into it, although I usually forget to drag them out of my save or sent mail folders into that, so I only get half the picture. But even still, I can do that for myself. The problem is when I have a colleague, be it an assistant, be it a junior, someone else in my firm who's also working with me on, in this case, the Widget Co matter, they can't see that little folder in my Outlook. It is impossible for them to see it. So they don't know what emails I'm sending, and I don't know what emails they're sending or receiving. But with Amicus, which is integrated with Outlook, so every email that's appearing in my Outlook will appear in my Amicus. It also appears organized by client matter file, and anyone working on the file can see all that vital communication right there. Or I can see my time spent, and the same sort of thing works here. Here's all the time that I've put in on WidgetCo, pretty short matter so far. Or I can see all file time, and you'll notice I've only put in a couple of time entries on WidgetCo, but some of my colleagues in the firm have put in quite a lot of time on the file, and I can see the initials of their time, EWSS, BD, and so on. HG is me, and this is all the time entries that have been put in on WidgetCo, and a running total down at the bottom. So it's about collaboration, sharing information, knowing what's going on. When I'm making a settlement, or the other side's made a settlement offer to me, I phone my client and ask for instructions. One of their questions is often, well, Ron, what am I going to owe you? And at a glance, I can answer that question. If I need a more sophisticated answer to that, remember we said that with this toggle up here, you can go between the business or the professional side and the business side. I'll just click there. Now I'm looking at the same matter, the WidgetCo share purchase, but from a billing perspective. So here's all of the billing transactions that have happened on WidgetCo since we opened the file, and I can see unposted time and its values, posted time, work in progress, what's been billed, any write-ups or write-downs that have put in on the file, what's been paid so far by the client, and what we've got in AR. Still hasn't been paid, but it's been billed. So as you can see, we've billed 87 and change, we've received 62 and change, and we're still owed 2,500. But we've got lots more here in WIP. There's another 805 there and another there. So if I'm talking about a settlement, I can see at a glance that, well, they probably owe us another 1,000 on top of the 2,500 in AR, and I can tell the client that right away. I can see trust balances, anything in retainer. I can see the actual images of the bills or work with time and so on right from this view. Again, notice the incredible workflow. I don't have to put the client on hold, go ask my secretary to look up bills, make rough estimate. I've got precise information the moment the client asks for it, which is also, of course, great client service. I also have, well, you can see the range of different things I can store on a file, including complete custom information depending on the file type, anything and everything I might want to track for. In this case, a share purchase transaction, I can store right here on the file. Also, of course, importantly, events. So here's everything I've got to do on WidgetCo. You can see there's a closing coming up on WidgetCo. It's April 2nd, and there's a variety of other steps, including finalizing the shareholders agreement today, which will be relating to that closing. Now, anything that I do in Amicus can be related to anything else. So in this case, you see, for instance, report to client the day after the closing. April 2nd is the closing, and you see that word linked. So let's open up that closing. Here's the details, lots of rich details available on every appointment in Amicus. Again, compare that to Outlook. It doesn't have a fraction of this. But we'll just change the closing from April 2nd to April 9th. Things are put off per week. Now watch in the background here when I say OK to save that. I say OK, the closing changed to April 9th. This changed to April 10th. The due date for that shareholders agreement changed. In fact, the dates of almost everything on this file rippled. So you can associate one event with another, or as many events as you like together, and then when one critical date changes, all of the related tasks, no matter who they're assigned to, change as well. And that will appear as required in your calendar. Let's see that. If I open my calendar right here, I've got a variety of different things to do. So here's my appointments for the day, here's my tasks for the day, and there's that finalized shareholders agreement on Widgetco, and it now says it has 12 days left, where before it was due today. And there's so much more I can do with this. We promised you that when we compared it to the Outlook calendar. So say, for example, here's one, prepare cross on Burwood and Wright. Of course, in Outlook, you wouldn't even know it was Burwood and Wright. You can see that's hyperlinked. I can open the Burwood and Wright file just by clicking on it. It's due today. Let's say I've got that work done. I'll mark it done by just putting a little tick in the box. Now, two important things happen when I tick that box. In the background of my calendar, you can see it's marked done now, and it's gone to the bottom of my list. On that file, it will show as done as well. And in the foreground, it's brought up for me a time entry. Here's the time entry details. I don't have to remember all those details about client matter, number, or anything like that. I hate typing. It's even put in for me what I did. I can put in other things if I like. All I really need to say is that I spent 1.5 hours preparing that cross. Say okay to that, and that's now on my timesheet for the day. So again, that's one of those benefits of integration that we spoke of before. By having an integrated practice management system, my calendar knows that as I get things done on billable matters, I should do a time entry for it. It won't do a time entry for me if there's no file related. If there is, I just get one. That's a preference set. If I don't want one, I don't have to do it. You can see it does more things for me. Like we said, the Widgetco matter now, I have 12 days left to do it, so it's giving me a countdown until my deadlines. Or, since not everything has a deadline, it's telling me how long anything's been on my list. Oops, that one's 136 days. I'd better get on it and get that done. Notice as well that many of the tasks in Amicus have what we call a do button. When you click that do button, Amicus will actually do it for you. So again, in the background, the reminder became a done task. In the foreground, I've called Janet. I'm all set to make a note about what's said. And I can see I've made a record of who I called, on what file, the time the call commenced. There's a timer running. And while I'm talking to Janet, she brings up something about something that was said before. I can just flip into my call history and go, here's what we said before, or I said to Janet before. Those my calls with this person. I can see my communications with this person, and now I'm seeing all of our emails, phone messages, and so on, and I can open any of those up. If I want to see that preliminary opinion email, there it is while I'm talking to her. I hadn't been expecting to need it. Suddenly I do. Or I can see all calls on this file. So now anybody who's called anyone else on the Bailey Reed Kipling file, their phone notes are right here for me too. And when the call's done, I can just click, get a time entry. Thank you very much. That helped me in my practice. It made me more efficient. It put information at my fingertips, and it helped me bill more, all from a simple task list. And those do buttons can do a lot more. They can do emails. Here's one, draft a retainer. Let's click that and get an idea of what that's going to do for us. When I clicked draft retainer, it brought up my retainer template, took all the information from the Jameson Inc. matter. It started a timer up here, and in under 10 seconds, it's offering to save a finished document to Amicus. And here's a letter addressed to the client. It has all sorts of matter-specific information right in here, you know, what type of file. We opened a corporate file. All of this is matter-specific information. It's asking for the retainer. It's asking for the sum up front. And in fact, it's got the full retainer document for me too. And it did that in under 10 seconds. And I know that because that timer was running. And in fact, that timer is more than a timer. If we click on it, you can see in the background that there was a full time entry done for me. I can just stop the timer, round it up, and thank you very much. I've done everything I need to on that matter. So the do button, another just simple example of how incredibly powerful Amicus can be in managing your practice. We're starting to run out of time, so I'm just going to give you one more simple example. This is my communications module. We talked again before about Outlook and email. Well, all your email is going to appear here from Outlook, as are all your phone calls, your phone messages, and everything else. Great way so that instead of having to look in 3 different places for who's trying to get a hold of you and how you have to get back to them, All that information can be in one place, like a universal inbox, and you can work right from here. Make notes of your voicemails, phone people back, see your emails, and keep it all on the files, or here, it's all together. Another one of my favorite features then is this little blue icon. So as I'm looking through my emails, so often I forget to do time entries for it. And wherever in Amicus you see this little symbol, it means, as you can see from the tooltip, do a time entry. So there was an email with a neighbor about a deposition. I didn't do a time entry. I'll say, okay, bang, it's done. One with Philip Agrarian, do an email or a time entry, bang, it's done. Another one on Janet Bailey, Bailey Reed Kipling. Notice here it says you've already got a time entry on this file on this date. Do you want to combine them? Sure, that makes for a better looking bill. And you'll notice that the little blue icons are disappearing as we do them, so that I'm only reminded of the ones I need to do. Or I can do that much more efficiently still, because I can say right here, remember at the beginning it said, look, you've got 35 recent activities without time entries. When I put my mouse over it, it says, help me do these time entries. And this is the time entry assistant. I just love this feature, and our customers tell us that this feature alone probably captures at least an extra half-hour billable time a day. And you'll see why at a glance, because I might have sent these emails on my smartphone in the evening, but because my smartphone email is the same as my Outlook email and Amicus captures everything from Outlook, there's an email I sent that I didn't do a time entry. There's a document I worked on. There's a note I made. There's a phone call I made. And I can just go through these, do a time entry, and click. Do a time entry on the next one. Click. I am capturing billable time. Or I can even just go in like this and say, time saver, just give me the minimum time entry on them all, combine as required. Bang, I just did 7 time entries. I probably just captured another hour and a half of billable time that I would have forgotten before, but because Amicus sees everything in my Outlook, everything in my calendar, every task I'm working on, every document I've worked on, I capture that billable time. All right, it's time for me to wrap up. So let's just bring some of that together. Amicus helps. It's not just a database, it's proactive. It's bringing you reminders of about your practice. It gives you all sorts of daily reports, personal dashboards. It improves your teamwork. It gives you common information on shared work, and everybody gets any change that's relevant. Assistants can do tasks for others, and you can delegate tasks and monitor how they're doing. For phone messages, sticky notes, and much more. We said at the beginning you reduce risk, and here's just a few of the ways of how. Better tracking of client communications, because that's the #1 source of malpractice claims. Better client reporting. Calculating your deadlines, making sure they get into your calendar, and making sure you meet them. Amicus automates all of that, and it has simply the best conflict of interest system in the world today. It'll warn you if you haven't been working on files in a given period of time. You set the time, but if nothing's happened on that file, you will get a warning and you will get a task on your to-do list. In other words, it's almost impossible for anything to fall between the cracks with Amicus Attorney. And so many lawyers tell me that what wakes them up in the middle of the night is not tomorrow's case. They're ready for tomorrow's case. What wakes them up in the middle of the night is worrying, what have they forgotten? What else should they have been focusing on while they were so worried about tomorrow's case? And what have they forgotten? So with Amicus Attorney, you are on top of your practice. It also helps you manage your law firm. You can understand your firm better as a business. You get all sorts of reporting built into Amicus Attorney about the types of work performed, what is profitable for you, who is profitable in your firm. You can analyze and look at the work you're doing, determine whether your hourly rates or your flat rates are appropriate, set budgets and targets, and plan for how to do your work. And that's why, or just one of the reasons why, Amicus Attorney gives you such a phenomenal return on your investment. With better time tracking, better billing, better collection, as we said at the beginning, you have a better realization work. You will bill more effectively, you will collect more easily, and as we saw, you're certainly going to capture more billable time from existing work. You can also be more efficient, so you and your staff will do more work with less overhead, and you'll bring in more work with better business development. Amicus Attorney pays for itself. Don't take my word for it. do the math yourself. And here's a simple equation that you can all do really simply. I don't know what your billable rate is, so I've chosen for an example $250 an hour. And I'm going to assume that your minimum time entry is 0.1, 1/10 of an hour. I'm also going to suggest to you that with emails on smartphones, emails on tablets, sent emails that disappear in your outbox and you forget to look at them when you're trying to remember everything you did today and do your time entries, that at an absolute minimum you are today missing to do a time entry for 2 emails each day that you could have billed. And with Amicus Attorney, as you've seen, that's pretty much impossible. So with those simple numbers, and on average we all work 230 days a year, that'll total $11,500 of recaptured billable time that you're working but losing now, and you'll get with Amicus. Amicus Attorney costs just $699. Your profit on these numbers is over $10,000. Forgetting all the other wonderful benefits that Amicus Attorney does for you, over $10,000 on that one time entry assistant feature alone. And that's why practice management is an investment. All right, last but certainly not least, why Amicus? There are other practice management programs. What is so unique about Amicus? Why has Amicus Attorney been on the market for over 20 years? Why have over 250,000 legal professionals invested in Amicus Attorney? The answer comes down to one word: approach. Amicus is built by lawyers for lawyers. It is designed from the lawyer down, not the technology up. It started in a law firm, was used in a private law firm for many years before this company was ever even started. And it understands what you're doing and how you're doing it and how to make it easier. And that's why it is the most easy to use with the most natural workflow. Also, when we talked about Amicus helping, how many quick examples did I give you about how it reaches out and helps you? Doesn't just passively store information. Amicus helps you get the job done. It anticipates your needs and offers you information without you having to go look for it. And that's the core of the Amicus difference, and that's why it is the world's leading practice management software. All right, I kept to my 30 minutes. Thank you very much for listening. As I said before, I am wide open to questions. And if anybody, there's a little questions thing in your GoToMeeting control panel there. If anybody wants to submit a question, I would be delighted to respond to it. And of course, I believe you've all been in touch with practice management advisors here at Gavel & Gown, and as follow-ups to today's presentation, they would be delighted to assist you too.